I think the irony is we start with a very uh, non-dualistic view of the self, right? When we're growing up and into adulthood, we have, for those of us who aren't on any sort of a, Buddhist or Advaita or non-dual path, um, we have a dualistic view of me versus the world, but we have a very non-dualistic view of what it is to be me. This is all
Hmm.
one unified thing. If I cut my finger off, I have lost a part of me. That is my
Uh,
finger in a jar over there. Every thought I have is my thought. Every word that I write is my word that comes from me and is a reflection of me as this unified creation. And when I die, I am going to be whatever the belief system happens to be, but that exists in some way that is indefinable, and or I mean, in inseparable, in
Indivisible.
indivisible. Thank you. Indefinable was not the right word. Indivisible was. Thanks. So it's something that feels like it's indivisible, which is ironically, it's dualistic in terms of me versus you, but it's very non-dualistic in terms of the unity of the thing. When we're doing the kind of non-dualistic, the sort of dualistic seeming meditation practices, ironically, we are separating out that kind of non-dual experience of being a unified me into all of its
Hmm.
constituent parts so that we can see that that was an illusion. And the odd byproduct of that is that we can have experiences that start to feel like my separation between you is just as much of an illusion as my creation of this finger and this thought being elided together into one unified thing. It we start to kind of break down the entire belief system of duality versus non-duality by virtue of seeing what we thought was a non-dual creation of a me is actually a whole multiplistic experience of various thoughts and biochemical reactions and atoms and bacteria in the gut and throughout the body and microorganisms and all of this that actually create this seemingly unified experience of one Toddness. And then that can break down, and then we can have these bigger experiences of, greater non-duality. But it is funny that it's like playing with like nested duality.
that that's one of those things that um, when you say nested duality, it almost kind of gently recoil from the rabbit hole like quality of that.
But again, it's like, don't make like a whole thing out of that. It's just that
Huh.
it's all processing, right? It's all pointing to the illusory nature of our processing of our experience.
Hmm.
We have ways in which we create duality, and we have ways in which we experience and create non-duality or non-dualistic experiences. None of those are inherently true or real. They are
Hmm.
they are both variations of experiences which are in any number of ways available to us. Some by meditation, some by psychedelic enhancements, some by, therapy, some by spontaneous experiences. Um, they're on the menu of potential experiences, but also it's created by the same thing that is creating the dualistic version that we normally adhere to all day. And again, it's like it's just in the lens of how we look at it. That if we look at the experience of the typical person who has never done any of this practice, they probably have a very dualistic view on the sort of greater scale, but a very non-dualistic view of the existence of their, eternal being, of however they experience that. But it's just within their processing of that. That's their experience of it, which is subject to change in any number of ways. Um, and the same with, I think it's a problem that we have in the spiritual community and the non-dual community of making the external sort of, more grand non-dual experience into the truth then, because that feels bigger and better and more real than the, smaller, more suffering filled dualistic view of me versus you and me versus the tree and me versus everything else. They're experiences that we have, but as soon as we lock into the belief that one of those is actually valid and true on a grand sense and the other one isn't, we're just right back into the same cesspool of belief and thought that we were in from the beginning. So, yeah, yeah. It is a quagmire as long as belief and thoughts and distinctions about it and trying to put things into boxes in our very human way is at play, because that the mind is always going to create levels upon levels and um conflicts and discrepancies and all of these different things, because the mind is creating all of the boxes.
I guess maybe that's why I had that reaction because it
Yeah.
did feel kind of confining when the way it usually feels and when it's conceptualized is that map that Douglas Harding did, starting from the smallest to the
Yeah.
largest.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really more how it seems. I mean, there doesn't really seem to be um, less and less as time goes by, there's less of that distinction between in here and out there. It's all
Yeah.
just one sort of grand scale.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. And even that can be a perceptual shift, which I think there are, reasons to also think that there's a certain truth to that. I mean, clearly we are part of this whole grand mechanism of the universe. We're not
Mhm.
separate from any of it in any way, shape, or means. So there's absolutely a, discernible truth to that, as we can see, just like, and that's what, like at the beginning we said, some thoughts are more true, or valid, or have some more utility on a daily basis than others. And I think
Right,
that's one that has, it's helpful to bear in mind, but it's also helpful to not get caught up into anything as being the ultimate truth or belief that we're locked in with.
right.
Ambiguity is our friend in this work.